It was the greatest night of fights of all time. And it was the only night in the history of the sport where every single fight ended by a knockout.
Did they all?
Every single one. 7 fights. 7 fights. Every one of them ended by knockout.
Today, I'm looking at Joe Rogan's recap of the UFC White House event. What makes this clip interesting is not just the fights, but how Joe talks about the scale, the history, and the meaning behind it.
Exist.
Right.
Distance isn't real.
Right.
So I think I want to know about the UFC fight at the White House.
To get away from super woo-woo for a second, it was insane.
Was the temperature make everything different?
It was perfect. No, the temperature was perfect. I was very concerned about that. I was really concerned that these guys are going to have to fight in the heat, but that was not an issue at all. It seemed like it was in the 70s, and it was the storm, like, miraculously just passed us. Like, there was all these weather warnings. At one point in time, the fight was supposed to start at 8 p.m., and at one point in time, one of the weather experts wanted us to start at 10:30. Yeah, because they were 10:30 at night, which would have been a disaster. 10:30 at night would have been a disaster because it's a 6-hour show.
Yeah.
You know, or close to it, whatever it is. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. I guess it was 5 hours. But somehow or another, the storm just almost went around the White House. I mean, I don't know.
Mysteriously.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's science or if that's consciousness. I don't know what steered the storm or if it's just random luck. It could have been all of the above. But all my fears of the weather getting in the way of the fights were null. It didn't mean anything. And then there was this long sort of ceremonial thing where they had jets fly over and, they played music and all this different stuff. So by the time we got to the actual fights, dark out, perfect. The weather was perfect. So that wasn't an issue at all. And it was just the magnitude of the event. I know people saw it on television and it looked insane.
Yeah. But
the magnitude of the event being there live. So there's the event that's taking place on the lawn of the White House, and that has 4,000 plus people.
The main event.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the actual UFC. So there's a bunch of military guys that are standing up in the back. There's 1,000 of those, and there's 3,000 plus that are seated. All these people are seated. But then behind that, not that far, 100 yards, 200 yards, whatever it is. I guess it's more than that. Maybe 300 yards. There's the ellipse. The ellipse has 85,000 people
who
got in for free. Yeah, it's like in the whole White House ecosphere, whatever it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so this area, they have giant screens set up, and they have, huge speakers and sound. And so 85,000 fans are watching the fights live on the screens, and they can see the lights of this claw dome in the distance, and they can see the White House in the distance where the fights are taking place, but they're watching it on massive screens with commentary. And it was insane. And you could hear them roar. So you hear the crowd from here, and then you hear 85,000 people, and it's fucking rah! You could hear it in the distance. It was insane.
What stands out here is how Joe describes the event like a full experience, not just a fight card. He focuses on the setting, the crowd, and the atmosphere. That tells you this event was built to feel historic. It's a good example of how presentation can make sports feel much bigger.
It was the greatest night of fights of all time. And it was the only night in the history of the sport where every single fight ended by a knockout.
Did they all?
Every single one. 7 fights. 7 fights. Every one of them ended by knockout.
Wow.
Which never happens.
Which is unprecedented.
Unprecedented.
Wow.
It was like the perfect experience for anybody that had never watched the UFC before to see it that way at the White House like that. I mean, it was nuts. A huge experience for the fans. They got to be there in the ellipse. And, I saw videos of these guys. They were having so much fun. It's like everyone's in there for free. You don't have to pay for the tickets. There's 85,000 people out there. They're all screaming and cheering, and the drinks are flowing. And it was wild. I mean, just absolutely wild.
What a 250th.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's a sport that was banned just, 15, 20 years ago or something?
20 plus years ago. So when the UFC, when I first started working for the UFC was in 1997. And back then, you had to watch it on DirecTV. I had DirecTV just because that was the only way to watch the UFC. That's why I didn't have cable. And then Zuffa purchased it. So the Fertitta brothers and Dana White, they started running it in 2001. And that's when I came aboard again. So I had quit in 98. I worked from 97 to 98, and then I quit, and then they brought me back in 2001. And when that was going on, it was banned from cable. And they slowly started working it back. They got it on Fox Sports Net, which was the first time I ever commentated for the UFC. That was UFC 37 and a half, a very special show that they put on for Fox Sports Net, tried to introduce people to the sport. And so that was the first time it was on like cable again. And then they started getting pay-per-view buys, and it started growing and gathering steam. But even back then, it was like you were doing porn or something, or snuff films, or you were doing something that was damaging for your career. And people would like look at you like, why you're working for a cage fighting organization? Why would you do that? Cut to 25 years later, it's on the lawn of the White House, and it is one of the most watched sporting events in the history of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know what the total overall views are as of now, but I know that it was like well over, I think it was 150 million just by Monday.
Unbelievable.
Just by Monday. So that's like the night of, and then people that watched the replay that weren't there when the fight took place because they heard about it. But now between then and now we're dealing with Tuesday. Like it's probably another 50 or 60 million people have watched it. It's
I bought
nuts.
Paramount Plus just to watch it on YouTube.
I'm sure.
I don't know, $13 or something that it was.
This part is really about how far UFC has come over the years. Joe is comparing its old reputation to where it is now. That's the real value in this section, more than the hype. It shows how a once marginal sport became mainstream culture.
The main event was the greatest fight of all time. It literally was the greatest fight of all time. Because the guy that won it, Justin Gaethje, was in many books 6-1 favorite, or 6-1 underdog rather, which is crazy odds for a guy that was a interim lightweight champion, fought the best of the best, one of the best to ever do it, BMF champion. I mean, just super durable, real dangerous guy. And that's how good Ilia Topuria is. That's how good Ilia Topuria is. Ilia Topuria, in many people's eyes, is the most skilled of the new generation, and the new generation is the most skilled of all time. And Ilia was like the top of the mountain. And most people thought that he was going to be too much, and he was too much for a while. And he almost took Justin out in the second round. And then Justin rallied. And then Ilia, it looked like he got really damaged in either the first or the second round, and he was having real trouble seeing out of one of his eyes. And then Justin started landing bombs in the third round. Ilia had slowed down quite a bit. It looked like he had really tried to finish Justin in the second. And sometimes when you try to finish a guy, you just hit the gas way too much, and you can't recover in between rounds. And Justin recovered, and Justin started battering Ilia in the third and fourth. And by the end of the fourth round, Ilia quit on his stool. He couldn't see out of either eye. He had gotten kneed into the body real bad when he was on the ground. Justin had him down with his two hands and just smashed a knee into his rib cage, and you could see him go like that. And that was the end of the round. And then he had to retire on his stool. You think
he broke a rib?
That probably could have happened, but I think maybe more significantly was the eye damage. Both of his eyes were swollen shut. His nose was fucked up. He'd taken so many punches to the face, and it looked like perhaps orbital damage, like maybe he had a fractured orbital, because his whole thing had just swollen up on both sides. He was unrecognizable. And, the guy hung in there as long as he could. But when you can't see, you can't see. And when you're that battered, sometimes it's smart to stop. And he's a very smart guy, and I think he realized, I can't defend myself right now. I can't see. This guy's smashing me. Let's call it a day. This is what it is. Let's preserve my body and my brain and rebuild and come back another day. But for Justin, it was like one of the most epic things I've ever seen in my life. For him to win like that when everybody had counted him out, he was saying it was going to be his last fight. It was like a retirement fight. 37 years old, been in the game forever. fought who's who of all-time greats in the sport, and this was going to be his last fight. And he's like, what if I can win the title at the White House? What an ending to a career. And that's what everybody was saying. Like, yeah, but you're not gonna because you're fighting Ilia Topuria. And he was like, all right, we'll see.
Wow.
And he pulled it off.
This is the strongest storytelling part of the video. Joe explains the fight as a comeback built on toughness and timing. The bigger takeaway is that skill matters, but endurance matters too. Sometimes the winner is the one who survives the worst moments.
Well, there's a lot of factors. One of the factors is that Justin has always been incredibly durable. I mean, it might just be a genetic thing. He even joked around about it. Like, science needs to take a look at this hard-ass skin I have. Because he very rarely gets cut at all. And he's like, I got these hard-ass bones and hard-ass skin. He was joking around, like, science needs to study this. And it's true, though. I mean, he really is insanely durable. He's been rocked and hurt before, and he's been stopped in fights before. He was knocked out in the last second of the last round by Max Holloway in the BMF title, which was an insane fight. But the guy is just, he has zero quit in him. It doesn't exist. Like, if you're looking for quit, you go into a room, it's empty. The quit room has no one in it. There's nothing in there. He's not going to quit. He can lose because he's a human, but he's not going to quit. And he's also been into the deep trenches before. The deep trenches of these 5-round, chaotic, insane battles. And oddly, he thrives in those kind of battles. He's a guy. He's described as the most violent man in the most violent sport. We've all talked about him like that for years, since the moment he burst onto the scene when he fought Michael Johnson, well, in the UFC at least. He's an extraordinary dude, just a very extraordinary dude, and not the most technically skilled. Like, Ilia looked technically better than him, but it didn't matter. Justin found a way to land shots, found a way to like persevere from the early rounds where he was in real trouble, and just shocked the world. It was amazing. One of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
That's cool.
It was fucking amazing.
Wish I was there.
Oh, my God. I talked a bunch of people into going that didn't want to. Like, Shane Gillis was thinking about not going. I'm like, bro, you got to go. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a once-ever thing. Not a once-in-a-lifetime. Once in anybody's lifetime. It's never happened before. It's probably never going to happen again.
Probably not.
No. Like,
Yeah.
That's something you have to see and experience.
Yeah.
And it's so many people are trying to make it a partisan thing. Like, they're mad at people for being there. Like, oh, you support Trump. Like, it's a fucking fight at the White House. Yeah. Doesn't mean you endorse foreign policy. Like, shut the fuck up.
That's
please.
too much.
Just please stop. And again, it's this thing, the ego thing, where people are they just want so badly. And on both sides, for sure. The right celebrates this as a win for masculinity and patriotism and all these different things. Like, okay, settle down. Everybody settle down.
Yeah.
We should all be together. And, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do when we went to the White House to try to push through psychedelics for therapy for veterans and people, first responders, people struggling with PTSD, is you need to take these steps to give people a path to change their mind. And
Exactly.
I think that's the title of Michael Pollan's book, and it's a great way to describe it. Change your mind.
Yeah.
Like, change your whole perspective. And there's no better way to change your whole perspective than a complete dissolving of your ego momentarily. Just, at least for a while, just lock it all away, push it out, and then you get a chance to see what it actually is doing.
This section moves from sports into mindset and culture. Joe argues that people read too much politics into everything. Whether you agree or not, the useful point is about perspective. Not every public event means the same thing to every person watching it.